Hey everybody, so in this video I am going to show you how you can find the missing dimension when you are given the volume but not one of the measurements. So first example here is a cylinder. So if you notice, the cylinder is turned on its side, so you could turn it this way if you preferred to look at it that way. So I can see that this is the measurement of the radius. This is the height. And I don't know what the height is. So that's going to be what we're trying to figure out. So first thing is, I know it's a cylinder, so I'm going to start with the cylinder formula. So we have a cylinder, and the formula for a cylinder is volume equals pi r squared h. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill in the information that I know. I know that the V is 175 pi. So I know the V is 175 pi. I know that this is pi. The radius is 5. So when I fill in 5 for the radius, I need to square it. So that's going to give me 25. And then the height, I don't know the height, so that's going to be h. All right, so when I look at this, I basically have an equation, and I'm going to rearrange this side a little bit to make it look a little bit better, but I have 175 pi equals 25h pi. So I want to figure out what the height is. So in order to figure out what h is, I need to solve for h. So that means I need to get h by itself. So right now, these are multiplied with the h. So in order to disconnect them or undo them, I have to do the opposite. So the opposite of multiplying by pi would be to divide by pi. And you know the rule is whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. So when I do that, pi's cancel, and I have 25h. And over here, I cancel that, and I have 175. So again, I'm trying to solve for the height. So to get h by itself, now I need to divide both sides by 25. So that's gone. So now I can figure out, so I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to say 175 divided by 25. So the height is 7. So h equals 7. So to answer this, the height of this cylinder would be 7 centimeters. And that's my answer. So basically what we're doing is we're working backwards. All right, so we know the answer, and we have to kind of go backwards to figure out the question. All right, so let's try the next one. And this is not focused well at all. So let's see if I can improve the focus here a little bit. Maybe. Sorry for the delay here, but this just doesn't look good, does it? Well, we're trying to get it focused. Sorry about this. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, try it again. Wow, okay, there we go. Now we got it in focus. Good grief. Okay. So example number 2. So this one is a cone. So we know that we have a cone. We also know the formula for a cone is that the volume is going to equal pi r squared h divided by 3. So that's the formula for a cone. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in everything I know about this cone. So I know that the V is 42.67 pi. On the right side, I know that this is pi. The r squared, well, I don't know what the r is, so that's going to have to stay r squared. The height is 8, and then we need to divide by 3. All right, so in this problem, I'm doing similar to the last one, but this time I need to figure out what the radius is. So I want to isolate the r. So that means I need to get rid of all this other stuff around it. So if we were solving an equation, the first thing that we would do is we would, because we have to undo it, so we have to do the opposite. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So if we multiply this by 3 and we multiply this side by 3, actually I'm going to put that in parentheses because I think that'll look a little bit better. So those 3's cancel. So over here, I'm going to rearrange this a little bit. I have 8r squared and pi. And on the left side, I'm going to grab my calculator. 42.67 times 3. So this side, I have 128 pi. All right, now I'm going to not worry about that 0.01 because on these problems with the decimals, it's very hard to get the exact one. So we'll go, since it's 0.0, we'll leave it at 128. All right, so I'm still trying to get the r by itself. So next thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by pi. So that cancels. And over here, that cancels. So now we have 128 equals 8r squared. All right, I'm still solving for r. I'm trying to get r by itself. So I need to divide both sides by 8. So when I divide both sides by 8, the 8 cancels over there. And then if you just divide 128 by 8 on your calculator, you'll get 16. All right, so that's what r squared is, which means that, just to kind of think about this another way, that means that 16 is r times r. So what number multiplied by itself is 16? So the answer would be 4. So I know that for this cone, the radius is 4 yards. And that's the answer. Now, you can always go back and check by filling this back in, because if we believe that this is 4, then we can rework this problem to verify that we get 42.67 pi. All right, on to example 3. All right, I need to start writing smaller, writing too big. Okay, so for this one, we have a sphere. So I'm going to start off with what I know about a sphere, and that is that, so this is a sphere, and I know that the formula is the volume is 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. So this one's going to be a little bit different, but you've had experience with the formula, so you should be good. All right, so once again, I'm going to fill in what I know about this sphere. So I know that the volume, so the V, is 1436.8, and that is 4 pi r cubed over 3. All right, so I don't know the r value, so that's what I'm looking for again. So I need to get the r by itself. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the 3. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. So that cancels here. And then I need to go over here and multiply this side by 3. So if you grab your calculator, 1436.8, that's right, times 3. So I got 4,310.4. So 4,310.4. Now, I am not going to clear the number on my calculator. I'm just going to keep it, all right, and just keep doing the next operation on the next one and the next one and the next one. All right, so again, we're trying to get r by itself. So next thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 4 to cancel that out. So divide by 4. So now I have 1077 So 1077.6 equals pi r cubed. Still trying to get r by itself. So this time, I'm going to divide by pi, so that will cancel. But over here, I'm going to say that I'm dividing by 3.14. So divide by 3.14. All right, so now I got 343. And again, we're going to ignore those decimals for these questions. So 343 equals r cubed. All right, so now I need to think, because what we know is that when we multiply r times r times r, it has to equal 343. So, earlier in the year you made flashcards. This was one of your flashcards. But if not, you do have your calculator. So you could do guess and check. So I know if I do 2 times 2 times 2, that's not going to work. 3 times 3 times 3, that's not going to work, and so on. But if you remember your flashcards, then you already know what the answer is. But if not, you might need to do some guess and check. So let's try 7 times 7 times 7. That's it. So the r is 7. So I know that for this sphere, let's see, I might go write it right here. The radius is 9 inches. Alrighty, last example. So this time, once again, we have a sphere. And I already wrote this formula up here, so I'm going to use this one again. All right, so let's fill in what we know. So we know the V is 457.33 pi. And we know that that is 4 pi, we don't know the r, divided by 3. So very similar to the last question. So we don't know what r is, so that's what we're trying to figure out. So we need to get the r by itself, which means we need to undo all this other stuff, and we always solve equations by doing the opposite. So first thing I'm going to do, opposite of dividing by 3 would be multiplying by 3, so that cancels. So I'm going to come over here and multiply this side by 3. So now I'm going to grab my calculator. So 457.33 times 3. So now I ended up with 137.99. Oh, sorry, 137. 1,371. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's 1,372 pi. And that is 4 pi r cubed. Still trying to get r by itself. So next up, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So that's gone. So now I'm going to take 1372 divided by 4. So I get 343 pi and pi r cubed. You might even see where this is going already. So now I need to divide by pi, and this time I'm just going to cancel the pi out, so I don't need the 3.14. So I ended up with 343 equals r cubed, and we just did that problem, so we know that r is 7. So for this sphere, I know that the radius is 7 inches. All right, so just to recap what's happening. So in order to find the missing dimension, we need to take the information that we have and fill it in its right spot in the formula for that shape. So make sure you are starting with the correct shape and the correct formula. So you want to start with the formula. And then you're going to fill in the information that you know into the formula. And then we're working backwards by solving. So we have to get h by itself. which means we need to divide by 25 and divide by pi. This one we wanted to get the radius by itself, so we had to multiply by 3, divide by 8, and divide by pi. That gave us r squared, and we need the square root of that to get our answer. And then spheres, just remember that it's r cubed. So once we divide by 4, divide by pi, multiply by 3, we have r cubed. So we need to keep in mind that that means r times r times r. Hopefully you know your cube well enough, but if not, you can use your calculator to do guess and check until you figure out what number multiplied by itself and multiplied again will give you the number you need. And then don't forget when you write your answer to include your units. All right, that covers how to work backwards to find the missing dimension if you know the volume.